Hi, I'm Andrew Shovlin, I'm Trackside Engineering Director, and I'm here today to answer your questions about the Monaco Grand Prix. Monaco is normally a race that throws up all kinds of excitement. Red flags, safety cars, crashes, you never know what's going to happen next. But this year, a bit of a procession really, start to finish. Tyres were quite difficult to manage, most of the field opting for quite a challenging strategy on the hypersoft going to the ultrasoft, where you had to make sure you had enough rubber remaining at the end of the race. We had a bit of excitement with Verstappen starting at the back, having to battle through the field. We also had Ricciardo suffering an MG UK failure during the race, which we thought might create a bit of opportunity for Vettel, but that didn't seem to happen. Our own two cars had a fairly difficult afternoon, struggling a bit with graining on that hypersoft tyre early on, and then there isn't really any opportunity to pass. So third and fifth for Mercedes, well, it's not the best result, but actually this was a circuit where we were never going to be the best car. We were in damage limitation mode, and actually quite a solid finish for the weekend overall. First question from Juan on Instagram. The reason we stopped Lewis early was we were already seeing the signs of that degradation on the hypersoft with Valtteri, and you could see that when it came in, it was actually pretty extreme, and you lost a lot of lap time very quickly. That's because when you lose the front grip, the front slides more, and it becomes a bit of a vicious circle. So with Lewis, there were a few factors. We knew we were going to lose a bit of time quite quickly. The other one was if we came in and we went to a faster tyre and we could push, we could actually pull the leaders in. So in that sense, what we're trying to do is when we can't do a long stint on the hyper, we're trying to prevent them from doing a long stint on the hyper. If we had stayed out with Lewis, we would have just been losing race time. So at that point, it was really a protective strategy rather than an aggressive one, as you might do with an undercut. So thank you, Ben, on Twitter, for your question. Unfortunately, we just weren't fast enough to overcut. We'd already gone into that graining phase on the hyper. We'd seen that both Vettel and Ricciardo were going quite a lot faster than us. So if we'd stayed out, we would have just lost race time. There wasn't anything that we could have done by going long. So next question from David on Twitter. We did talk about what we could do with Valtteri around that point of the race, lap 50. The problem is if we just came in for hypersofts, you lose a lot of race time. So you've then got to use the fresh rubber to try and make up that race time. Obviously, if you were to do that on a safety car, it's a different matter because the field bunches up. But the other thing is Valtteri only had one supersoft. The supersoft looked like the best tyre, and that was the tyre that was fitted to his car. So from his point of view, if we had another set of those, we might have tried something, but actually it wasn't really going to make any difference to the race unless there was a safety car, and in that situation we're better off waiting for it to happen. And thank you, Kaylee, on Facebook. Yes, Lewis did sort of push up close to Sebastian on a few occasions. He was quite mindful that he had to get his tyre set to the end of the race. You heard him saying to the team, are you sure these are going to last? It doesn't feel like they're going to go that far. And for sure it was a long stint, and you are taking tyres quite close to the limit. The other thing is at Monaco, it's so difficult to pass. If you have a massive tyre offset, if someone's on completely worn out rubber and you're on fresh rubber, you might get through. But it's very difficult. And in reality, if Lewis had sat close behind Sebastian, he would have suffered more degradation, more wear, and I don't think he would have ever made a pass stick. And thank you, Peter, on Twitter, for your question. The first part of that, was Lewis in real danger with the tyres? Well, no, not really. He managed the rubber quite well to the end of the race. They weren't in optimum condition, so the lap times wouldn't have been as good as a fresh set, but we were in no real danger of running out of rubber, so that side was okay. You saw that we got the pit crew out when the VSC came. We were discussing what to do at that point, what to do with either car. How you make those decisions depends a lot on what happens in front of you, what happens behind you, because you may inherit places if other people stop. You may also get a free stop if people box out of the way. So that's why we bring the crew out. We're still having the discussion. It means we can react quickly, but in the end, we decided to stay put, as did the rest of the cars around us. So thank you, Michael, on Instagram. We had tried that tyre with Lewis on Thursday, and he'd found it a little bit difficult to generate the grip. It's a harder tyre, needs a bit more work to warm it up. The other thing was we expected the race leaders to go onto the Ultrasoft, so it made sense to have Lewis there on the same tyre. If we were running the race again, we would have probably gone for the Supersoft with Lewis because it was durable and it was quick, and we saw that with Valtteri, where he was actually having quite an easy time on that tyre to the end of the race. Thank you, Janez on Facebook. Well, in reality, Monaco is almost always a one-stop race. The pace was slowed down a bit by Ricciardo. That did make it a little bit easier for people to survive on the tyres. But the reality is, if he had made a stop, then you could guarantee that Sebastian was not going to stop again, because he's then inherited the lead, he's going to stay there. And the thing with Monaco is you can drive more or less as slow as you like. There's areas of the track where you can really preserve the tyres, and even if someone's behind you, there's no way that they're going to get past. So that was why we're always going to end up with a one-stop strategy. You get some people trying it, but it takes so much time to make those positions back that as soon as you're in the lead, the best thing is you just try and go to the finish. Now, Paul on Instagram. Well, that is a good question, and that's what we've been doing a fair bit of work on this week. We saw other people up and down the field in a similar situation, but crucially for us, the Red Bull looks stronger and the Ferrari looks stronger. Now, we've got some pretty good ideas of what went wrong, and we're going to be doing a bit more work back here to fully understand that, because we do need to get on top of that for Montreal. We've got the same tyres, you could have similar problems, and we need to make sure that we're not exposed, because in Montreal, if you lose pace and you're suffering degradation, people will pass you very easily. And thank you, Manas on Instagram. Well, again, that's another good question, and another thing that we've been working on this week, trying to understand exactly where the deficits are. In qualifying, we were a bit behind, and to be honest, we went to Monaco not expecting to match the Red Bull. They always look good at the very high downforce circuits, circuits with slow speed corners, and Monaco's a race where we've not dominated for a long, long time. Now, the reality is it'll be a combination of many, many things. In qualifying, I think we were getting the tyres to work quite well. It was just a question of grip and also downforce and keeping them cool in that final sector. We were good in sector 1, but it's quite difficult to put the whole lap together. So I think there we're just looking for small differences. And then in the race though, understanding this graining on the hyper is another matter. That won't be just down to the car performance. So we need to look at what we were doing with the car, how we were using it, how we were setting it up. And we're doing some work now to try and understand all of those issues. But as I said, invariably, and is often the case when you suffer a performance problem, it isn't just one thing, it's a combination of a lot of factors. Thank you for your questions today. We've enjoyed answering them, and we're looking forward to the Canadian Grand Prix, where we'll be ready and on hand to answer your questions again, hopefully after a more exciting and more dramatic race.